The sound of drilling at sunrise should never be followed by the words, "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step away from your own dock." Yet there I was, barefoot in my pajama pants, coffee in hand, watching two hired workers bolt a 6-foot metal fence across the entrance to my private canoe launch. One of them even had the audacity to smile and wave, as if this were just another mundane Tuesday. Behind them stood Linda, the HOA president, dressed in her signature pastel tracksuit and oversized sunglasses, gripping a clipboard like it was her scepter in a war she'd already won. She didn't wait for me to speak. "You've been using this launch without proper authorization," she declared, as if I hadn't owned this house for 7 years and that very launch for 6. "As of this morning, this area is under HOA protection for safety and liability reasons. You'll have to take it up with the board." I blinked, glanced at the workers now zip-tying a private HOA use-only sign to the fence, then back at my canoe, stranded on the grass like a caged animal. That's when it hit me, not just what she was doing, but how she assumed I'd roll over. Linda had been power-hungry since she took over the HOA presidency last year in a shady vote involving her husband, her cousin, and a part-time resident who somehow got a ballot. Since then, it had been a barrage of fines for made-up violations, bans on lawn gnomes, and a so-called visual unity project that was really just her way of saying, "My rules or bust." But fencing off my canoe launch? That was the line in the sand. "Linda," I said, keeping my tone steady, "this isn't HOA property. From the mailbox to the water, it's mine." She let out a smug little chuckle, the kind you'd hear from someone who thinks they're untouchable. "I had the maps reviewed by the board. Your deed stops 3 feet from the water. We've assumed custodial oversight." "Assumed custodial oversight?" I echoed, like I was deciphering gibberish. "You mean you invented that just now?" "Submit any concerns in writing," she snapped, spinning on her orthopedic sandal and strutting off like she'd just won a courtroom showdown. The drilling continued. A weaker man might have yelled. Another might have called the cops. I finished my coffee, went inside, and dug out the faded folder labeled Property Deed, Lakeside Edition. Then I made 2 calls. The first was to my lawyer. The second was to Tom. Tom's 82, smokes cigars as thick as sausages, and owns the lot next to mine, including the dock Linda kept calling community property. He never joined the HOA, once saying he'd rather let raccoons chew his ears off than pay her a cent. We'd talked for years about me buying his land someday. Now, it wasn't a discussion, it was fate. "Make me an offer," Tom said over the phone. "You still want that pontoon golf cart? Toss in a case of bourbon, and it's yours by noon." By lunchtime, I was signing the papers. That night, I stood by the fence as the sun dipped low, painting the lake in golden streaks. The fence loomed, smug in its newness, Linda's sign flapping faintly in the breeze. I grinned. In a few days, it wouldn't be flapping on her turf, it'd be on mine. The next morning, the neighborhood Facebook group blew up. Someone had leaked a photo of the fence with Linda's claim that certain residents need oversight for safety. The comments were savage. One asked if she'd fence off the ducks next. Another questioned when Linda got her real estate license. My favorite came from old Bill down the street. "If Linda tries to fence my cat, I'll show her what a claw law really means." I stayed silent for now. Linda doubled down, posting a typo-riddled rant about protecting communal assets and consulting our land use team. She overused strategic boundary alignment so much it sounded like she was plotting a military campaign. Then she slipped up. She filed an HOA improvement notice with the city, labeling the fenced launch as community land, which triggered a clash with county records, because my name was already on that patch of dirt. The clerk called me, half laughing, half irritated. "You know someone's trying to claim your property?" "I do now," I said. "This is about to get fun." It did. By Friday, Tom and I finalized the deal. The dock, the launch, the bushes Linda once tried to prune without asking, all mine. My lawyer updated the county, and we sent the HOA a notice. "Your fence is on private property. Remove it within 48 hours or face $500 daily fines. Further use is trespassing." Linda didn't reply in writing. She showed up at my door. "You think this is a game?" she spat. I peeked past her to her husband, frozen in their golf cart like he'd rather be on Mars. "No," I said. "I think it's inevitable. You can't just buy land to spite me." I didn't. I bought it because I'm done with your spite. You've made this hostile. You built a fence on my land, I pointed out. This isn't over. It kinda is. She stormed off. I shut the door. 2 days later, the fence still stood. Maybe she thought I was bluffing. But property law doesn't bend for wishful thinking, and my lawyer, whose voice could sour cream, was thrilled to start trespass proceedings. I gave it one more day, not for Linda, for the amusement. That afternoon, I invited Tom over. He rolled up in his creaky Chevy, cigar lit, lawn chair in tow. That the monstrosity they built? He asked, eyeing the fence. Yep. Looks like a spiteful possum welded it together. We sat on the lawn, watching two HOA guys in matching polos approach the launch with clipboards, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. They saw my new sign, private property, entry by permission only, owner, James, snapped a photo, spotted us lounging, and suddenly got real interested in a shrub. You think they know you own their dock yet? Tom asked. Not till the insurance bill hits. Because that was the next shoe to drop. After the county filing, I called the HOA's insurance provider. Since their community dock was on my land with no lease, any accident there would void their policy. The new quote. Nearly double. I had my lawyer add a note. No dock access without a hefty land use fee. The HOA freaked. Linda ignored the letters and tried rallying the board for a countersuit. No one bit. She was Linda. I was the guy with proof. So she turned to the community chat, posting vague warnings about disruptive neighbors and claiming I was holding public property hostage. I replied with one post. A photo of me sipping iced tea by the deed, fence in the background, captioned, hostage? Bold word for trespassers on my lawn. It got 40 shares. The next week, the HOA held an emergency budget meeting. I wasn't invited, but word spread fast. Linda tried hiding the insurance hike under facility upgrades, but the treasurer, Sue, called her out mid-meeting. You're saying we're paying $6,000 extra because you fenced off land we don't own? Chaos erupted. The meeting fell apart, and Linda left red-faced. I kept quiet, updating my property markers with bright paint and new signs. I offered the HOA a fair land use deal, monthly rent, liability terms, maintenance fee. They refused, likely at Linda's urging. Too bad reality doesn't care about pride. The dock, used for picnics and fishing, was now off limits. Then the messages started. First, a passive-aggressive note. Sad one neighbor's actions ruined access for all. I sent back a fence pic. Yeah, shame someone built this. Then came apologies and quiet pleas to reopen the dock for a barbecue. I said no, liability's real, and I wasn't risking a lawsuit over a slippery board. Linda got desperate. One night, my trail cam caught her measuring my property line, muttering like she could conjure a loophole. The footage hit Reddit, anonymously, with the top comment, Linda's measuring her way out of a lawsuit. Her big mistake came later. Someone tore out my boundary signs and tossed them in the lake. Caught on cam, Linda's reflective sneakers glowing as she hurled them. I didn't confront her. My lawyer sent a cease and desist with a video still and a trespassing charge draft. The fence vanished the next day, no explanation. That evening, I sat by the launch, breeze on the water, canoe free again. Tom swung by with beer and chicken. We watched the sunset in silence, the shoreline peaceful. But I wasn't done. Linda had weaponized authority and expected no pushback. Her small defeat was just the start. I'd make sure the next one stuck.